Let's move to throwing the bones, talking a little bit of a defense here. And again, we're not going to, this isn't deep delving into it today. We're going to have a whole entire show. There's plenty of time between now and game skimming. 1. Yeah, this is just kind of the overview. We'll start again. This is depth chart wise. And what I think was interesting, we threw this out, and I'm going to switch two names around here that this is still old from about a month and a half ago. Okay. We have Devin Drew on the first team. We had Steven Wynn on the second. I have no problem flipping those guys around. Drew has barely gotten here.
I don't know who those people are.
Yeah. And Wynn is the Alabama transfer who's been here all summer here. But specifically what I like about it is that we have this in a 4-3 alignment. And it's kind of a 4-3 alignment. Also, we have the nickel back, the nick back, Chris Kolarov. So I don't know exactly how this is going to look, but just listening to Dawson the other night on the radio, he just flat out came out and said what we've been hearing all off season. We're going to have more 4-man front. So it's going to be maybe a 4-2 nickel, or it could be a 4-3. I don't know exactly how but it's going to be more 4-man front, 4 down front. Dave, when you were down in Lincoln back in April, and we just happened to walk up to Barry's that day. You had like a business thing you're doing that day, but then like we go over to Barry's, and it was the first coaches clinic that I haven't gone to in a generation. And we run into a couple of coaches that I had actually met that were from South Dakota, high school coaches, and I had met at a previous one. And Dave and I were sitting there, and we ended up talking to these guys for a good hour or two. And one of them was a D-line coach that came out of Dawson's coaching clinic. And he goes, yeah, Dawson said we're going to run 80% 4-man front. And he's telling us that in April. So it's like, okay, I don't know. I don't know why he'd be saying that if that wasn't the case, or I don't know why he'd be saying that anyways, so yeah, I envision 4-man front. That's what that depth chart looks like there. There's also a reason I didn't jump off the bridge when we would lose a Casey Rogers back in the day. I thought that we needed to get a couple of guys in the. Can
you bring that back up, Honky?
Sure. I knew that we needed to get a couple guys in the portal. And, that's offense. And we did, but your defensive line depth, that 4-man front depth, starts to look different when you start to incorporate guys like Garrett Nelson, Blaze Gunnerson, Butler into.
So you have Caleb Tanner.
I do have Caleb Tanner as a linebacker. He absolutely could be a D-end edge guy. I guess we should.
He could be that hybrid guy too.
We do need to replace the D-end with edge. That is the terminology there. And really, okay, so Redcasters, I probably need to do a little bit of work on this. There's basically 2 linebacker spots, and then there's 2 edge spots. So Caleb Tanner's role here probably would be as an edge. And we that edge spot, there's depth.
Dude,
Garrett Nelson.
Said that was one of the deepest.
Oh my God. Tanner, Nelson, Mathis, Butler, Gunnerson. Those are all edge guys. I'm going to redo this graphic a little bit just to kind of better show that they didn't. I should have had that ready. My apologies for the live audience there. But Dave, you wanted me to bring it back up. Is there something you wanted to specifically?
No, I just wanted to look at it more closely. I mean, that was one thing that was interesting to see and see how you laid that out. Seeing Tommy Hill starting at cornerback, I think you might be right, but I'm sure Braxton Clark is going to argue that to the end of fall camp. So that's going to be really interesting.
Is Buford for sure a safety?
They've been moving. Yeah, they moved.
Yeah, I think so. I was going to go run. I did finally get my Phil Still magazine earlier this week. And I was looking at the position rankings, which is always interesting. Nebraska is in there on a few of them in the 30s or 40s. The highest one, though, is the linebacker core. He has us 13th in the country in linebackers. I was like, wow, we haven't hit a top 15 in that magazine in a position ranking in a long time.
Dave, where's that rank in the Big Ten?
I don't. If you give me a few seconds, I'll run and get it. But
sure. That's all right. I just wondered, like, how give or take.
Tell you what, Dave, if you want to get it, I'm going to play a 25-second clip here from Garrett Nelson talking about his goals.
Run fast, Dave.
Sacks. I saw somebody has to be the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So why not me? Yeah. So. I know the type of player that I am, so I want to go prove the rest of the world and also prove myself that I know who I am.
We have 2 guys that just stepped away for a second. Dave finding the magazine, and Mac, you might hear him in the background. He's letting go of one of his drinks.
I might have to run off for a second too, because we got a huge hailstorm coming through here. I might have to go save my
Are
plants.
you?
I'm still here, El Guapo.
Greeley's about to
Greeley's getting
get
hit with some hail here. But
Yeah.
that just for everyone here with Nelson, he just he mentioned there in that audio clip for the guys that, on the show that didn't hear it, that his goal is to be defense player of the year, and he's like, why not? If not me, and he has lofty goals there, and I'm guessing the Phil Still, which Dave is now looking through, for us to be a top 15 linebacking core, it probably incorporates or includes guys like Nelson in it. And so again, that edge position is going to be kind of middle. It might be considered linebackers by some takes, and it's going to be D line by some takes, and that's basically what Dawson's coaching right now, anyways. D line and edge.
Yeah, so I can read just a little bit out of Phil's write-up. He says inside linebackers Luke Reimer and Nick Heinrich were number 1 and number 2 tacklers, and both return, plus outside linebacker Garrett Nelson has taken the next step and is a player to watch and the leader of the defense. And to Mac's question, ahead of us in the Big Ten would be Iowa at 8, Michigan State at 7, Wisconsin at 6. And that's it.
So
we're fourth.
Fourth with linebackers there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys agree that the linebacker position group is our strongest position group? Probably
On the defense, right?
Or no, just in general in the whole.
That's a good question, Mac, because when I saw that, it made me think a little bit. And yeah, it's interesting. Huh?
If you incorporate returning production into the projection of it, I would probably say yes, because
they were both 100-yard
between Henrich and Reimers. I mean, obviously, there's production. Now, at the same token, maybe this is me, drinking some of that Kool-Aid, but I think very highly of what we have in the room at running back and what we have in the room at wide receiver, and yet, from a returning standpoint, a lot of it's projection, but it's a ton of potential. It's a ton of talent. My God, it's 4- and 5-star guys and all that good stuff. It's just, it's not necessarily proven yet wearing red and white, but the linebacking core, I have no issue saying that's as proven of a spot. I think the defensive backs, where we lose 3 of our 4 starters, but you get Newsom back, and he obviously represented us in Indianapolis at the media days. And then, Tommy Hill, I think, is a great transfer for us to get. And I think Fisher is very excited with some of the safeties.
That's probably been the best recruited position group since Frost has been here as the defensive backs. We're still waiting for some of those, Noah Pola-Gates. Buford's poised to make a breakout, but there's been players within that group that are ready to shine. I mean, Quentin Newsom's came here,
and to finally have some consistency from coaching at that position group too. I mean, you think about that. There's that stretch where we had over.
That's okay.
Let me run through these position rankings really quick, just for conversation's sake. Really quick, quarterback at 52nd, running back at 44th, wide receiver at 34th, and then offensive line 67th, defensive line. I'm looking. I don't see it. Linebackers again 13th. I'm hoping I missed the D line. It's not good. It's not ranked. Defensive backs is 56th and not ranked on special teams. Go figure on that one.
Yeah, totally.
That's someone like our special teams.
But
0.
again, think about what happened with special teams. We now have a returner, Palmer, 5-star recruit and transfer from LSU, who has a D1 kick return and punt return to his name. So you're hoping that that's where the transfer portal helps you out. Our punting was, as we've said earlier, a disaster, and then we bring in the FCS punter of the year, right? So there's reason to be optimistic, and yet, based off of anything in the past, I don't know how you rank us any higher than not being ranked at all. Almost the way negative, that he did. Sure. But the O-line one is really intriguing to me, Dave. 67th, and I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. To me, the player that really, maybe the most important player potentially on that O-line is Ben Hart, because if Ben Hart, who has as much experience as anybody coming back, and he has the NFL body. He is the 6'9" dude. He is a top 100 recruit. He's played 2 years of Big Ten ball where he has plenty of experience. If he can, but he also fell out of favor for plenty of mistakes. He's part of those jumping, offsides against Oklahoma that I talked about earlier. He's part of the problem that we had. He needs to, if he cleans that up with a new coach and has some new eyes on him, if Benhart can solidify that right tackle position, that opens up Corcoran to be able to play any of those other spots. We have Prohaska at left tackle. You have 3 top 100 recruits. If they actually play the potential, I mean, I'm asking a lot here, right? You play the potential. That doesn't sound like a 67th offense line in the country, but we haven't seen it either. I mean, I'm not knocking Still for ranking them there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more than fair.
If Raiola gets Benhart to be a solid starter, then we're set, because that means all the other guys have improved tremendously as well. I mean, that would be the development key that we're missing, right? That you're right. That's 100%. If they got Benhart to be a solid contributor as a starter, we're going to be just fine this year. I mean, just fine. Frost said himself, we'll go as the offensive line goes, which isn't groundbreaking. Everybody knows that in terms of offense, but it needs, it definitely
that could have been the opening statement.
There you go, Dave. I'm agreement with you. That could have been the opening statement. Here, I'm guilty of this. I brought us over to the offense, but we're still talking throw the bones. How about, we said the offensive line is the most important. Boomer, we'll get you talking here. What if there's a defensive area? What's key in the defense? Is D-line, linebackers, secondary? What do you think is key right away that they have to really take that step up for this defense to make the next step?
Well, I think the D-line has probably the biggest questions of what's out there, just because of who they're replacing and the talent that was brought in at the other positions, and like we said about the linebacking core being as solid as it is. I do want to see what the defensive line can do, and that's always been the thing in the Big Ten. The offensive lines are so dominant for a lot of these teams. So how good is your defensive line? That answers a lot of questions. How good your defense is going to be. So that's what I want to see going forward. This season, what can they do? Can Schneider make that D line like it was last year? And we'll see. So
yes,
yeah, Big Ten's one in the trenches. So, Rob, you look wet.
I am. We're getting a huge hailstorm out there. And speaking of defense, I had to throw some paint. I don't even know what you call them. Paint tarps, the big paint things that the people throw on the floor. I've got some very large ones.
Right.
Tarps, yeah. I've got some large ones. I threw them over my cars because we've got like nickel-sized hail coming down out there right now. So just saving my car.
Not plastic?
But I'm really glad that you're asking, because I actually think the most important area for the defense this year is going to be the defensive backs, because I think we have some of the talent on the edge rushers. And I think that we got guys like Nash that are, I don't know what's so funny, Hunky, but
no,
I think
Boomer posted.
am I alive? Let us know in the comments.
No.
Oh, I didn't see.
You don't want to know, Rob.
Oh, I look wet. I am wet. Very wet for this team to start playing.
This
soon.
is a family show.
Well,
PG-13.
yeah,
Let's go.
We some mild violence. No, but I think the defensive backs, because if they can do their job in the back, they're going to give some time to some of these, what I think are going to end up being elite pass rushers, time to get to the quarterback of the opposing team. And especially with some of the guys that we have played against that we should be sacking on a regular basis, especially against certain teams that are yellow and gold, whose name I will not say. They don't have the best quarterback talent at some of these teams. They just happen to have a lot of time to do what they want to do.
I think Aiden O'Connell's going to be really good in the Big Ten. What are you talking about?
But anyway, but I mean, I do. And I think the defensive backs, because we got a lot of new guys that came in on that side of the ball as well. And back there, some transfers. And so I just think that if they can do their job and they can pull together and show some experience from the guys that have been here that are now stepping into that role, the defensive ends are going to have some time to do their thing, and we're going to see some special things on the defensive side if that happens. Yeah,
we need to. Mac and I talked before the show. Mac was watching a bunch of old film from 20 years ago, and it's like there's just always. What'd you say? Like the guys always just made a play. There was always.
That was kind of the thing, and. We romanticize the 90s and maybe the late 80s a little bit as far as Husker football, but man, watching those games, we had plenty of 3 and outs. We had plenty of drives that people were running the ball on us, but then they would fumble or we would have a turnover, and that would change the game. And it kind of just kept bouncing our way, and then we could break a team's will because we got a fortuitous turnover, and then we went down and scored, and that would just break the spirits of the other team. That stuff used to happen with regularity to those teams, and it's happened to this team in the complete reverse with a shocking amount of regularity. It's like insane the amount.
They are the number one team in the Big Ten in turnovers in the last like 10 years or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Just stupid. It's just so dumb. Like they weren't as. We were really good in the 90s, no doubt. We were dominant in this and that, but it was like watching when I put them on YouTube, I just expect us to steamroll every drive. I'm like, 3-0. What the hell? You know, oh, Frazier's like 50%. This sucks. I mean, like, where are the scores? And then, you know, the fullback trap, 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, kick. I'm like, God damn, this isn't that fun to watch. But eventually you wear a team down and you start scoring points, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is how we won those games back in the day. This team isn't that, but we're not so far away from it that, like, we just had a few break score away. Boy, our record looks a hell of a lot better, and that's really all we're asking, right?
I'll tell you what, I'll challenge.
Oh, and Ron Brown's on the sideline in nearly any game you ever watch. I don't care if you go back. I swear to God, if I looked, if there was Devaney film, I bet you Ron Brown would be. He's like Pennywise.
He's never aged.
He's never
same age.
I would challenge any Redcaster out there, watch the 1996 Nebraska K-State game. And
look for Ron Brown.
Look for Ron Brown. You'll find him. But also, that is the perfect example of, like, everything you said. It couldn't have been an uglier offense. We nothing was happening right. Yeah, it was game 4 of the Frost era, but it was defense. We made 50-yard field goals. We made multiple field goals. We blocked 2 punts in that game, and it was defense and special teams winning a game early in the season when the offense was struggling.
Special teams were key. Aaron Miles was a monster.
And we took it for granted, I'm sure, as Husker fans, right? But, you know, your punter's just always going to kick a great punt, and we're going to block something and all that. Those are the things. It worked in 96. It's the stuff we need to work now. We need to have those kinds of performances out of those elements of the game, defense and special teams, to help get us through some of the natural. It is way too rose-colored glasses to sit there and think that we're just everything's going to, on first snap on offense, is just going to work with Whipple and all the changes. I don't think that's realistic.